I guess I kind of want to describe how I'm writing this story and how I'm putting it together. Because I've tried many different styles of techniques over the years, and many people have many different recommendations. But I'll tell you how things are going for this book and why they seem to be working for me and why I believe they will based on past experiences. Because I do think the mechanical side of writing, of the discipline of writing, is very important. If you're gonna sit down and do something each day, you can't just wing it every day. Like, I guess I'll just sit down and write every day and see what happens. Like, I think it's much better to give yourself more of a sense of security, more of a sense of a safety net. Like, things can only go so wrong or so awry because you've got plans and backup strategies and ways that things are going to work. Because that'll also just help you actually do the writing every day, to just actually sit down so that it feels like a fun thing to do. Because no matter how fun it seems to do it every single day, to sit down and write every single day, it's still always going to be hard. It's always going to be a struggle. So to help make yourself more comfortable, you need to be comfortable with yourself, basically. You need to know that you've put yourself in good hands and that you are those good hands, and that you have enough of a mechanical plan for how you're going to get to the end of the book, that you have faith that you will get to the end of the book, that you won't stall out halfway through and just be hopelessly lost. Over the course of the next year, I just took notes. Took notes whenever I thought of them. Just had a big slush file, just this one text file with just every little thought that I had. And like I mentioned, it started with a human on an alien space station, and then it quickly became an alien on a different alien space station. And like, let's just take that feeling, that seed of that feeling, and ramp it up and really try to create a little diorama, a little puzzle box people can peer into that examines this feeling and where it comes from and what it means and what's to be done about this horrifying xenophobia. So over the course of the year, I was kind of working on other things, and I would just take notes, for whatever stories I was thinking of. But this one, really, I did just keep coming back to again and again, where I would think about what it was like to travel, and then how it felt now to be back home again after that. So I just put those all together in a big slush file, and then came time for winter. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna go to Vancouver for the winter, and I'm gonna write a book while I'm there. This is like the plan, because I'd done something similar with the nonfiction book that I wrote that's about the video game The Last of Us. It was similar to this technique, where just the picking away at it day after day, working on it every day, but it was more of an experiment to see how this works for me and how this feels. I didn't stick to it as rigidly as I have this time. And I was surprised that whole time of how slow things were going. But it taught me that that's just how things go for me. Like, this time I'm much more prepared for the pace and the slowness of this, because now I know that that's just how I work. But I was like, all right, I'm moving out west for the winter. I managed to write a nonfiction book. Now I'm writing a novel. I'm doing it. So which one's it going to be? And as I went through all my stuff, I'm like, this is the one, man. This is the one. I've got so many ideas for this book, and they're mostly arguments. It's like I'm trying to sort things out in my own mind of just like, I'm still shocked and disappointed that I did feel so uncomfortable with traveling. But okay, to get to the notes in particular about this story. So I took the big file I had been adding to for a year, and I went through and just copy and pasted each idea into its own file. So it wasn't just one big mess anymore. And then I organized those by topic. So I've got coping with loss and acclimating to surroundings. So that's early in the book. Just a folder for just moments on the space station, just little beautiful moments that happened. Because that made me think of while I was in Amsterdam, there's this park near Sloterdijk Station, I think it's called. It sounds like Sloterdijk, but it's got J's in it and stuff. Really beautiful, and I really liked going there. I went there pretty much every day just to be in a park and just to feel normal again. And yeah, I just remember like that park was really beautiful. And there was even this one little moment where I was just sitting on like a fallen log, and I was typing something into my phone, and I remember this mother went by with her daughter and just smiled at me. and I was like, tiniest little moment, but I felt totally like I was back home. Because in Canada, you just smile at each other, you say hi. In Vancouver, you thank the bus driver when you get off, you know? Even if you get off the back doors, you're like, thank you. And just that little moment, I always remembered. So I have a folder of just similar things like that. Like, even though this character is having this tough time while her brain is unraveling and falling apart on this weird station, it's not all bad. There's going to be a lot of little beautiful moments of like, wow, this is crazy. I can't believe I got to see this. I can't believe that I'm here. Then by far the biggest folder it's called Evie and Abe Argue, because originally Sarat's name was Evie. The little conversation stems and ideas that these two characters could argue about, that one's huge. There's a ton of files in that. There's like 53 different items in that one. Then a folder for the climactic finale. So once I had all those pieces split up like that, then I just started writing straight through. Because that's something I've done before and it hasn't worked. But that's when if I just start from scratch and just start writing in a straight line, eventually I get lost and I get confused and I don't know what's happening. So what I did this time is, all right, chapter 1. And then I went through all of those little notes and I picked out all the ones that might be appropriate to this chapter and put them in that folder. Read them over, think about them, then start writing without using those notes, just start writing. And then if I get stuck or I get lost, I can go refer to those notes and see if there's something in there that'll spur me on. And then after I was done the chapter, I'd go back and read through those notes and see if there's anything I meant to put in that I missed, and then see if I can add that in. And then if there's any note files in there that never got used, then those get returned back to their appropriate filing system for future use. And it's been really cool because most of the book is still just written as I go, each moment to moment, especially going slow like I do each day. Like, okay, what's the next beat? What's the next beat? But I've always got that pool to draw from of these specific notes that seem like they'll be appropriate to that specific chapter. And if not that, then I can go back even another step and go through the whole big mass and see if there's something in there that'll save me. And even if there isn't, even just going through that process, that's something I'll definitely talk about later, is that I never really have a problem with writer's block, partially because I either just stop, if I have writer's block that day, I just stop until tomorrow. But also just to have something mechanically to fall back on. If I'm a little stuck, just the act of going through those notes and then digging through the larger pool of notes and just letting your mind idle a little bit. Or even reading notes for parts that are going to happen later, parts that aren't appropriate now. Something is going to connect. Something is going to spur a thought. And it's just a good feeling to have that net of ideas that I came up with before I started, So you're not just like, because it does feel like working without a net when you're just writing. You're just writing and you're like, I better not fall off, because if I do, there's nothing. Where having that slush file of the ideas, like, yeah, if I get stuck, if I need a little break, if I'm feeling uncomfortable or feeling nervous about something or whatever, to just take whatever, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, just to drift through the different directories and just to drift through the different files, just to know that it's there for you. It's like, if I get stuck, past me already wrote, let's do a little check of how many files I got in here. Past me wrote 251 little things, little miscellaneous ideas already. Something in there has got to be worth something. And I also think it's quite important to have quite a strong grasp on what the ending is going to be before you start. I think it can definitely change, but that story that I mentioned in episode 0, when I said I used to write a serial every week, and I didn't have a sense of the ending of that, and it got so off track. I'll talk about it later for sure, because it got so off track where the whole tone of the story changed halfway through, and then I didn't know where it was going, so I just started introducing new characters, and like, it just fell the fuck apart because I didn't have an end to get toward. So like, this idea that I spent a year gathering notes, I don't think that's any kind of hard and fast rule. Maybe a year, maybe 2 years, whatever, maybe a month, maybe a week of just hardcore note taking. I think you'll know in your soul, in your heart of hearts, when you've got enough material to feel comfortable, like enough. It's like your own little encyclopedia. Like, if I get stuck on this story and I need to know something about it, or I need to go get some information, you'll know for yourself when you have enough. But I think you don't have enough if you don't know how it's going to end. You got to at least know more or less how this story is going to end. Because I know famously Stephen King doesn't have endings in mind when he writes, but I feel like you can fucking tell, you know? I don't want to shit on Stephen King because he's written some of the greatest things ever. Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption, not only an amazing movie, one of the best stories ever written. So fucking good. And his big, sprawling epics, like The Stand, amazing. But The Stand doesn't have a good ending. So don't do that. Have an ending. Like, there's obviously a lot to be said for letting things be open and free and writing as you go. I'll talk about that later too, because that's definitely something I've come around on. I think because not having a direction went so poorly in that one story, I went the other way and I tried to have too much planning, and it was kind of constrictive. I think it's very good to be open. Like, already this story of the alien space station has gone all kinds of weird places that my notes never could have dreamed of. They'd have no idea. But I think it's so important to have that shining beacon in the distance, that no matter how lost in the woods you get, you know that that's where you're trying to get to. And the ending is so important, you know? Like, if you have a great story with a lame ending, it's very hard for that to stick in someone's mind. But if you have a kind of lame story with an amazing ending, you're gold. That's good. It's worth so much. But to reiterate basically what I was trying to say about process is, yeah, this is how I did it for this book, and it really seemed to work. Take notes, take as many notes as you can, every little stray idea that you have while you're in the shower, while you're walking to the coffee shop, for as long as you need to until you have, a few dozen at least, just little ideas, little ends, little moments. Make sure you have a relatively strong conception of an ending. Maybe you'll come up with a better, stronger ending as you go, but have an ending that's good enough that you're like, all right, that'll do, pig. That'll be pretty good. Then sort those notes into thematic and, if possible, chronological order, and use them to guide you as you write at a very slow, methodical pace, day by day, chip by chip, until you make it through. And if you get stuck, like I did today, revert, take what you've got and break it down again. Break it back into what it used to be. Take it back a step. Take these ideas, sort them out again, look at them, get a new perspective, keep moving. Even if you're not writing, even if you're actually taking things out, you're still moving. The process of movement is still happening because you're still working with the story, even if it's to break it back down into its component pieces so that you can try again.